Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of Trap or Die Podcast. I am your host, Molly Mual. AJ's here. Dre is on the way. We do have the good man Linnell Willingham joining us in a second. In the chat, I see you, bro. What's going on, Justin? He said by far the hardest intro music song in any DC content created. Hey, look, man. Shout out to Tez, bro. Look,
damn, hey, hurt. Watch me throw the ball.
I was so love every time, bro. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna clip this up and send it to him right now. But yeah, man. Shout out to him. Let me go ahead and get Dre in here now. I think he just checked in. Boom, there we go. Fellas, what's going on with y'all, man? How y'all feeling, bro? A little couple of days after that weekend that them Commanders boys had. How y'all feeling, bro?
Shit, I feel great, man. I mean, honestly, you know, I was probably going to feel great no matter what happened in this draft. But, I mean, it just gives you a little bit of confidence hearing all of the, like, national media and everybody kind of praising what Washington has done. I mean, it's still, you know, we won't know what this class becomes until, 2-3 years down the line. But right now, it does feel like we're in good hands.
Yeah, I mean, I feel good. Haven't even really been thinking about the draft for real.
You had some mind on some other thing, right? You was out of town, right?
Yeah, but I mean, just in general, like even out of town wasn't the best. It rained the entire time. I cut that short. Came back early, but I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of saved a lot of my thoughts. After we did the show Friday, we seen the pick Saturday. I saved those moments and those conversations for today. Get to chop it up better now that we got the full 7 round of picks and UDFAs, and where they go from here.
Yeah, bro. I'm in the same boat. I really didn't have much to say on social media or anything. I do think it's interesting. Shout out to JB. Shout out to Rich. OKG. He's right. Hit that like button if you haven't done so. Matter of fact, administrative items before I forget. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the YouTube channel. On the audio side, man, if you are just listening for the first time and you just tapping in, man, you like the content, hit that follow button. Give us a rating review. You know, it takes like 2 seconds to do it. It's free to do it. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing to it. JB said trust weight. I mean, come on, we know that. Trust don't stand a chance, bro. He rocking 99 or some shit. I don't know. Think about a 00. I don't know.
Hold on. It's official. Like they just finally came out. And
I heard Jayden might want a different number though. I heard that he might want 7.
Well, if he get a different number, then it is what it is. But I was talking under the pretense that Jayden would want
between Trezway and Jayden.
Yeah,
I was reading the little chat as if it happened. He said Trez is giving him the number. Like that's what he's saying, because I guess he's saying he's giving it to him for free, because mostly those guys kind of charge for those numbers.
Yeah, they do. They said something. Now I didn't know this until I heard it, but they said you gotta buy out the old, like the person's jerseys, like in stores and stuff like that, or something like that.
How many Trezway jerseys are in stores?
So it all depends. In this situation, in this situation, there's not many Trezway jerseys, so Nike ain't gonna go crazy. Plus, it's around the perfect time. They can make way more money by selling Jayden Daniels jerseys than Trezway jerseys. I think it just boils down to them having probably a phone or in-person conversation about the number, if that is what he wants, and coming to agreement, because there hasn't been like an official number yet decided. If you've seen like the little ads of advertisement to buy the jersey, it's like number undetermined.
Yeah, but this brings me back to my point. I've been actually talking about this since they've changed the rules of the whole jersey thing, where anybody can wear any number. DL can wear single digits. They need to go to the college style rules, man. Kickers and punters do not get to wear single digits in college. You got to wear a number in the 30s or the 40s or the 90s. I mean, because you think about it, those jersey numbers don't really sell, and people aren't buying kickers and punters numbers. In the NFL, jersey numbers are king. And those cool jersey numbers, like the kickers and the punters, they're wearing 3, number 5. You're not buying those jerseys. So, give it to someone like Jayden Daniels. That's a cool jersey number to have, number 5. I mean, whatever. But kickers and punters, they need to start wearing those college numbers again. Go back in the 30s and the 40s.
I wouldn't be mad at that, bro. Like, don't waste a good number on a punter, bro. Especially somebody who want to get like the all white jersey. I thought about that with the all white jumps. I was in Dallas for the 2022 season. Me and Montel went down there, bro, and somebody had a white Jahan Dawson jersey, bro. When I tell you that shit looked so clean, bro. He had the white jersey, some the Timbs on. I don't know why he had Timbs on in Dallas, bro. It was like 80-some degrees, but like that joint, I say he had to fit together, bro. And I was like, that's what I'm getting. I'm getting a white jersey.
Well, as long as Tress don't hit him with the who was it, Jimmy Clausen that did that to Cam Newton? Cam Newton said he wanted $750K. Well, a million at first.
He wanted $1 million.
Cam Newton said, "I'm gonna make sure they never hear your name again in this league."
I'm talking to Linnell right quick, so I'm trying to get him set up.
Now Marcus Mariota got number 0. Tress,
he got 0.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota, because that's what Mike Sainristil. Yeah, I knew cornerback. He wore number 0 in college, and that's why a lot of fans. Someone even said they wanted to start a petition up to get Mikey Sainristil to wear number 0.
Man, y'all ain't got no say-so over that. Like, at the end of the day, let them boys have their conversations about what they want to do. But I mean, ain't that deep, depending on who you are. But of course, like whatever number Jayden wants, they'll let him get. But some second-round pick, hell no.
Yeah,
you got to rock with whatever it is.
Yeah, really.
That's true. Fellas, we're talking about Jayden right now. I think this is. I mean, we kind of talked about it on Friday. We can kind of do a little bit more because there was some more information that came out since we've talked about him on Friday. So everybody in the chat, appreciate y'all checking in live. Everybody that's watching live, showing some love that way. Let us know how you feeling about the draft. Let us know who. Matter of fact, what's the question that I was going to ask us so we can ask them? Where is it? Who is the most interesting pick? Who is the most questionable pick for you all? I try to go that way because I wasn't really I don't know how y'all feel about draft grades, bro, but I do. That does nothing for me. Like I can look at a draft grade and not be impressed in the slightest. And I think it's interesting how I don't want to be a Debbie Downer to those who actually value draft grades at this point of the off season. But it's like I don't understand why you allow that to dictate how you feel about the draft when reality is we're not going to know anything until maybe as early as August, or maybe as late as 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say I don't give two damns about no draft grade because it don't really matter. Like that's just names on paper. You still got to get put into the coaching scheme system. You have to adjust to a new city, state. You now have money. There's so many different elements to it beyond just the football field that as a rookie you got to get adjusted to. Like, I mean, there's plenty of teams that if you looked over the years that have had amazing grades by media pundits, and those players don't amount to be shit. They may not even be on the squad after 2 seasons. So I really don't give two damns about no grades, but it's just another way for them to, regurgitate the same information they already gave you, and have you visit their website to see where my team ranks within these these grading systems. And I think, Maul, you seen my tweet the other day. I wasn't even talking about draft grades, but I just was seeing, I was just saying like A- and stuff. And I've always been wondering this, like, even when I was younger. Yeah. It's like, what the hell is an A-? Like, either I got an A or I don't. Yeah. Like, there can't be a minus to an A. Like, I don't know. But
so your question, you had said just the American grading scale. It was just, I think, because it's literally just like the 90 number to like 93 or 94, something like that. But in terms of, because when I heard you say that, I was literally listening to the radio at the same time. So I was like, damn, what if you just talking about the interview? Because somebody works for PFF. He was on the radio 106.7. And he said an A-. And I was like, damn, like what constitutes, like, why not an A, B, C, or D? Like what constitutes an A-, a B plus or a B-? Dude said he gave an A- because just because they drafted Jayden over Drake May. And Drake May was his number one quarterback. So that was the slight, which I was like, all right, bro, like, look, that's cool.
Draft grades ain't nothing but you like this guy as much as I like this guy, and I gave you a bad grade if you didn't like a guy I like the most. That's all draft grades are. It's just a bunch of pundits that scout these guys and say, I'm gonna look at which teams like or saw the way I saw it, and that's it. So like you said, it don't matter. I mean, proof is in the pudding. The results are the only thing that matters. That's why a lot of times we can't really grade a draft fairly until 2 to 3 years down the line at least.
So let's go ahead and talk about Jayden's pick now. I think, fellas, the one or the couple of angles that stands out to me since the time has passed, since Thursday has passed, is understanding a couple things, right? First and foremost, Adam Schefter was spot on. He didn't lead anybody astray. He said that he said on here, safe to get your jerseys. But he also said that everything that when he's talked to people suggests that Washington, he's talked to people outside of Washington Circle, but everything screamed that they will be taking Jayden Daniels. He later said today, what's today? Tuesday, or maybe yesterday, and maybe you all know where it came from. I want to say it was Pat McAfee show that they wasn't even considering Drake May. Like that was never an option for them. Secondly, Washington made their decision, inverse. New England knew that Washington was taking Jayden Daniels 2 weeks before the draft even started. So they already knew that Washington was going Jayden Daniels, which kind of gets to give myself a little credit here. It made no sense, in my opinion, that we would go into this point of the draft, right, where they aren't at number 2 overall. You aren't necessarily locked in on who you want. Like, it would make sense for you to kind of get to that point well before the start of the draft. And hearing these things from Adam, also hearing the fact that Jayden Daniels was always their guy. I think that was probably the most assuring thing from a personal standpoint, because I wanted Jayden, but also assuring because they were aligned on the same page for some time now, knowing what we wanted to do, we as in the team, and knowing which direction we wanted to take this franchise. And then one last thing, I heard a clip today from Dan Quinn himself saying the first time he sat down with Adam Peters to watch tape was a game of Jayden Daniels, and him and Adam Peters chopped it up and broke down the film of Jayden. So that was the very first person they even watched together in their new job here in Washington.
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard that for Washington, the decision was between Jayden Daniels and JJ McCarthy Friday. So the day after the draft. That's what I heard. That's what I heard or whatever. And like you said, New England felt like they had a pulse on what Washington was doing with the number 2 overall pick. Like we've said on here, some of the people that we've had over the past couple of weeks, the Bears only brought in Caleb Williams. They never brought in another quarterback to sit down with. So essentially, they already made their decision on the number 1 pick about a month ago officially. So really, Washington necessarily had the number 1 pick. So they had all the time, and they controlled the draft and who they took at number 2. I think when you compile the information that's been given since the hires of Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, immediately Dan Quinn kind of came out and said who would give, like, the quarterback that would give you the hardest time to defend, like to scheme for. If you look at the pool of the guys that's available, that's hands down Jayden Daniels. Because, some people like to focus on the aspect of him running, but he's a damn good passer, So, I'm getting distracted by damn comments. Like, bro, I'm not no Denver Nuggets fan. Like, I just like the colorway, and I like the Dikembe Mutombo. He African just like me.
I say Justin probably got a beef with the Nuggets, bro.
Yeah, I ain't man.
Justin,
fans,
what's the beef,
y'all
bro?
Big mad? Y'all big mad because the last.
I ain't see JB either.
But aside from that, man, it's just like they made the best decision for their team that have put them in the best opportunity to, have a difference maker at that quarterback position. And I'm pretty glad that the conversation is over with, even though some people are still trying to have it in regards of Drake May, Jayden Daniels. It's like Jayden's in Washington, Drake's in New England. If these guys are who we all think they are, in our bias or our scouting, whatever you want to call it, they should be able to succeed in those places. I'm just excited that it's over with. They now have a guy that they could build with. But ultimately, I think we'll talk about it further in the show. I think that Washington still has a lot to do to build around Jayden, not even just for this year, but even in the future, like next year for sure.
Yeah, part of me kind of wants to know if this process that we've seen, because this is the first time we've seen their process play out as far as how they manage a free agency, how they manage a draft. And from what you're saying, Mual, I mean, what we talked about on this podcast, there was plenty of discussion around have they made a decision or not, or how far out have they made this decision. But now we're kind of finding out that they've known for a while that Jayden Daniels was going to be the pick. So it's kind of a testament to how they operate as a front office, but they're not giving out too much. They're, the leaks aren't really out there. Most of the leaks, or at least some of the chatter that we heard, even with Adam Schefter, it was from talking to other people around the league and what they think Washington to do. Like, nothing came from sources out of Washington say this is what's going to happen. So I think they did a pretty good job in kind of holding it close to the vest.
Hey, Dre, I actually don't believe that.
Why you say that?
I believe that Adam Schefter is extremely close with Josh Harris and some people within this regime, but he has to position it a certain way so it doesn't come off like, like what we've been accustomed to. But I think there's definitely people.
Oh, you think he's kind of protecting?
Because it's with every team. There's no team that just doesn't have someone that's leaking information or feeding information to certain people. But at the end of the day, the reason why you become an insider and you are trusted with these outlets is because you know how to keep a damn secret. You know how to shut your damn mouth and also kind of fill us in when we need to be filled in, and we do the same for you. You scratch my back, I scratch yours in a sense.
But right, so AJ, that's kind of my point. Like when Adam Schefter was reporting all of this, he never once said it was coming from Washington side. But now we kind of get an idea that it probably was coming from Washington side. As you say, this could have been Washington feeding him certain information, and Adams being real careful with his words. Like I can really believe that. But I mean, going forward, will we believe that? Like next year, like will this process be the same? Are they going to feed Adam this process, this information next year? You know, and if they do, will Adam have to be careful with his words again? So that's part of what I want to see with how this whole process is going to play out. Like, is this the norm? Because this is only the first time we've seen it play out. But I mean, it was kind of impressive how it all went down. But I do not think in the future that we will be believing Adam Schefter doesn't have information or he's not that close if he's reporting what Washington is going to do pre-draft. But he was the only one. Like, I mean, outside of him, it wasn't really many people out there kind of knowing what Washington was going to do. Even the local guys, I mean, they talked Jayden Daniels up. They mentioned him as a prospect. A lot of them liked him. Like even Ben Standick, he always wins the mock draft contest around here. He never once said any of his leaks was coming from inside of Washington. He kept saying, he was asking other GMs what they would think, and this is what they would say. So, that's just my whole point. Like, is this going to be the process moving forward where we're kind of guessing what they're going to do, even though they know what they're going to do? Or is there going to be a case where they're going to switch it up and maybe we will get a little leaks here and there going forward?
So, I guess my final thought on Jayden, so we can move to the other picks, because we were just talking about, just the idea of him. AJ handed on it into who the player is. I just think for Washington, and also something that I struggled with pre-draft, like before the pick was actually official, was like understanding what this conversation was about, immediate impact versus like long-term play. Obviously, thinking about the other quarterback, I just think that even with Jayden, you're looking at a guy who has pro-ready traits coming into the NFL. This is me not comparing any other quarterbacks. This is me talking about Jayden alone. Pro-ready traits coming into the NFL from a processing standpoint that I really gravitate towards. And I'm interested to seeing how that processing standpoint continues to develop in Washington. I would love to see that personally in terms of like just with Washington, the team itself. I think that a lot of people on this offense can benefit from that, because just from a scheme standpoint, you think about sometimes how, things just don't work out well from an offensive line standpoint or just from a receiver standpoint. There's been conversations about the offensive line over the years. There's been conversations about the receivers not creating separation. Whether like the bottom line truth of that is you have a quarterback now who can really bail you out with his legs, but he also can bail you out because he's a dual threat, and defenses have to play him honest with 11 defenders. They can't just like not account for him at all at the cost. Like he is a person that has to be accounted for in every single play. And I think when you have an elite trait that Jayden possesses with his lower body and his legs, I think that makes Washington's offense all the more dangerous immediately coming out the gate. I also think that this is something that's sustainable because you have a person who has shown a track record of being able to progress on a yearly basis through wanting to learn more, using resources to get better. That virtual reality thing, the way the facilities opened up for him as he asked for, and like taking this effort to get better, like that is a person who takes this serious, and that is something where regardless of how effective his legs are, if he takes this part serious, his mental, like there's nothing that'll stop him from becoming an even better quarterback. So that's kind of where I get confused with like that floor and like where he can get capped off at. I don't think that there's a ceiling that is like defined for him right now. I think that this is a person who can really impact this offense in several ways. So long as obviously knocking on wood, he stays healthy. I just think that from a player standpoint, this is a dog ass player. He's an athlete, man. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I actually agree, Mual. Like, I mean, I loved him pre-draft. I mean, this was a guy I watched at LSU. I mean, we all watched him kind of at Arizona State in his early years, and even the first year at LSU. You've seen him just progressively get better. And the thing that I like the most, I mean, everyone talks about the legs and all, but to me, I love how he processes and scans on the field. And that's something kind of unique for a guy with his skill set. Like a lot of times, those guys don't really see the field well. That's why they run so good. That's why I don't like some of the comparisons. And I think this is a hating comparison when they compare him to Justin Fields. I don't see that at all. Justin Fields doesn't see the field well at all. I mean, Justin Fields is a great runner. I can see the running part, but that's the part of Jayden Daniels' game that I think a lot of people overlooks is that he makes really quick decisions. And then people like to point to the pressure to sack percentage. But for him, he kind of negates that with his big playability. You know, I mean, pressure to sack percentage kind of started getting brought up with Sam Howell last year because Sam Howell took a lot of sacks, obviously. But Sam Howell isn't Jayden Daniels. Sam Howell can't do what Jayden Daniels does. Like Sam Howell is more of a sit and duck in the pocket. Jayden Daniels' sacks didn't come from being a sit and duck in the pocket. It was more so it was either pressure that was pretty immediate, or he was trying to, you know, get something out of it, and maybe he loses 1 to 2 yards, which is, you know, that's a kind of a big deal too because he's not losing a lot of yards on those sacks. But again, it just goes back to his ability to, I think, see the field well, so he can even make that quick decision to run and scare you out of the pocket, or he can make quick decisions down the field. I know a lot of people do want to see him throw over the middle of the field a little bit more. And I do think you'll see that more in the pros. You know, as he gets schemed up in the pros, he's going to get more comfortable making those throws. And it's not a thing with him where he can't make those throws. It's just that he didn't take them that often. He had other opportunities there with those receivers. I mean, they were beating guys downfield all game. So, you know, that's why you've seen the deep ball on display last year. So, I mean, again, Mo, I'm with you in the fact that, you know, this guy stays healthy. And that's the biggest thing. That's honestly the biggest worry for me. And it's not even so much of him taking a big hit and getting hurt. It's more of the durability aspect. He was pretty durable in college, but NFL is a little different. Maybe some of those hits might take a little toll on him after a while. So I'm hoping that he kind of plays smart when he's scrambling out of the pocket and he's not taking those hits. Get down or get out of bounds when you can. But, I mean, he's a guy that if he stays healthy, again, with his ability to process the field and have the dangerous legs that he has, I do think the sky's the limit for him.
All right. Johnny Newton or Jerzan Newton, their second round pick, their next pick after Jayden. He went number 36 to Washington. Obviously, John Allen, Deron Payne is up in terms of the big dogs at that position, the interior defensive line. Behind them, John Ridgeway, Fedarian Mathis. What do we think about the Johnny Newton pick? And where do you think he kind of fits defensively for these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I love the pickup of Johnny Newton, kind of going into day 2 of the draft, which is round 2 and 3. I thought that he would still be there. Unfortunately, he fell in the draft. He was like one of the number 1 defensive players. Well, he was one of the top considered defensive players in the draft overall. He wasn't expected to be there at 36 when Washington was going to pick. But you never know how the draft is going to play out. There was a run on wide receivers. There was a run on offensive linemen that, you know, helped him to slide. But I feel like Johnny Newton is a perfect addition to what they're trying to do with this rotation on the defensive front. Even though you still have Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, you brought in some guys in free agency, and you have some guys that are left over from the roster like KJ Henry and Andre Jones. You're just now adding more firepower to that front, which is going to bring more pressure to the quarterback and allow your cornerbacks to get their hands on the ball more, because we know that's what Joe Witt Jr. specializes in. And also that's what Dan Quinn wants as well. They want to play violently, like they've been saying, and they want to create turnovers. Last year with Dallas, we've seen how much the pressure that they were able to bring with their front. They also drafted a guy in Mozzie Smith from Michigan, D tackle, bringing, you know, in Newton to play in the rotation with the rest of the guys allows them to be able to create more pressure, and hopefully guys like Ben St. Juste, Emmanuel Forbes, and other guys within the secondary can get these picks. I mean, Deron Bland led the league in interceptions last season, so I was perfectly fine with it. I feel like they took the best player available to them when their time was on the clock. Some people question it because they got PTSD. They're thinking about Fadarian Mathis and stuff of that nature from the previous regime. But this is a guy that is quick off the ball, can be disruptive in the passing game, and is also not going to be relied on to be a full-time starter. He'll be able to learn behind guys like Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and come in and just figure out his niche for the league and also his role within the team. And on top of that, you now have an insurance blanket for if you do need to possibly move off of a Jonathan Allen, even this season as trade collateral and next year, because Jonathan Allen does not have guaranteed money left on his contract. So that's someone that you could part ways with next year. So it's just one of those situations where they got the best player available to them at number 36. And I think that he's a great addition, whether you like it or not. He's going to play an avid role within this pass rush during the season.
It's funny because when we were on the podcast Friday night doing the live draft with Johnny Newton, y'all kept talking about him, and I was like, I didn't pay much attention to him because D tackles is just not a position I really look at too much at college, just because we're so set there, and we have been for a while. So when the pick happened, I was like, what? Why did they do that? And then I, started reading on it. I started paying more attention to him. And then I got really intrigued by his ceiling and what he can be. I mean, that dude, he disrupted games. I mean, you're looking at the Illinois defense when you go back and watch some of those games. He's in the backfield the whole game. The commentators are talking about him the whole game. Like, he's game wrecking these games. He's a first-team All-American Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. And the Big Ten is known for tough defenses, a lot of talent in that conference. And he comes out on top from the D-tackle position. So, I mean, again, he gets to learn behind vets like Payne and Allen. And I do think Allen is one of those guys that will kind of teach him the way on how to be a pro. I know a lot of fans, kind of feel a certain type of way about Allen, but I do think that's the value he adds to the locker room. He's going to help a Johnny Newton become a pro. Like, we know he has the talent, but you have to do the other things as well in this league. So, I mean, it's great that he gets to kind of learn behind him. And then we don't know how long Allen's going to be here either. I mean, there could be a trade at any point with Allen. As we know, the money's not guaranteed for him anymore. So Johnny Newton, he can be vaulted right into a starting spot, at any point. I was listening to the radio today. I don't know whose show it was, but I heard a caller call in, and he said that he hated the Johnny Newton pick. He said because he doesn't understand. Yeah, he said he doesn't understand BPA. He doesn't like BPA. He said it's stupid for teams that aren't there yet. That was his reasoning. Like, he said it's stupid for teams that aren't up here. You shouldn't be going BPA. But I'm like, that's a dumb thing because we never know.
I would think it's the exact opposite. You need as much talent as you can get.
Exactly, especially for a team that doesn't have talent. I don't care where it's at. If you're adding talent, I mean, if you have an opportunity to add talent that you rate pretty highly, you take that on and you don't turn your nose up at it. So Johnny Newton, like I said, with a John Allen, we don't know at any point John Allen can get traded. I mean, any point, any of these guys can get hurt, and he's one step away from being a starter or a full-time starter. And that's a talented guy you're putting in as a starter. So, again, I love the Johnny Newton pick after going back and doing a deep dive on it, and I think his ceiling is really high.
Justin, I went to Spin Garden. Is actually funny because my mom went to Spin Garden, bro. So that's why I had to answer that. I didn't go to Spin Garden. I went to Flowers, bro. PG County, brother. So I think, honestly, bro, this whole conversation is interesting because obviously the bigger, and I don't want to, because I think AJ and Dre, you all touched on two good angles with the Newton pick. I'll be tapping into his film shortly. I'm actually working backwards in the top 6 picks. So I started with Brandon Coleman. I'm on y'all got McCaffrey. Oh, he was the second. Oh, I did the inverse. Anyway, I did Coleman. I'm on McCaffrey, and then I'll go down to Sinnott, Sainristil, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, Newton, man, I think the one angle that you have to think about, AJ hinted to it, is the fact that there isn't any guaranteed money on John Allen's contract to this point. But also, like, if you think about the players behind Payne and Allen, y'all know I love Big Phil. It's been unfortunate that his 2 seasons here in Washington has been riddled with injuries, right? The first season, the guy played 2 snaps and went out for the season. And then his second year, he comes in, I think, midway through the season, ends up playing the full amount of time that he's available. But Ridgeway and Mathis serve some of the same roles. You don't really have any depth in terms of what Allen and Payne serve. And I think if you're looking for a person who's explosive off the ball, who's quick, right, and has a way of penetrating the backfield, you're thinking about like even what Deron Payne does, right? Like who is the depth piece behind an Allen and Payne who could give those guys breathers, and your interior doesn't miss a beat. And I think that's kind of what they're looking at with Newton. Obviously, as you all mentioned, to some point, he had a first round grade. You even seen some clips on social media where Adam Peters was mentioning he was nervous or scared that he wasn't going to make it to Washington. I think if I understand right, he had a foot injury, and that probably would scare some people off. It wasn't a Liz Frank though.
It's a Jones fracture.
Jones fracture. Yeah, I'm the one with the Liz Frank fucking fracture. And I'm like, damn. When I heard the difference between the Jones fracture and Liz Frank, I said, bro, like, what is my luck, bro? Like, I'm over here dealing with pain, trying to run routes so I can get back on the field, and now I got an MRS at 2 Sundays from now, bro. Like, anyway. That whole idea of having a backup for Allen and Payne so they can get breathers, bro, instead of playing 80+% of the snaps defensively, bro, because that is insane to put that amount of workload on those guys. I think this is a good look for Allen and Payne, despite the no guaranteed money on Allen's contract. But if to AJ's point, if like Newton takes off but that's another thing too, though. Like the one thing I would think about, I wouldn't even expect them to even offer Allen up unless somebody's offering some insurmountable money that or offer that they can't turn down. But the idea is to get these guys some help. So I don't know why they would take it away and put Newton in a role where he's now going to be playing X amount of percent of the snaps. And when they were just trying to make sure everybody is fresh and in a healthy rotation. So we'll kind of see where that goes. I like the athleticism. I like the idea of pairing Newton, Allen, and Payne, having them in alignments where they're all on the same field at one time, and they can make some shit shake. That's something interesting for us. Number 2, number 50 of round 2, Mike Sainristil, the guy's name who I couldn't pronounce right on Friday night. He was selected by Washington DB. Obviously, Philadelphia made a trade where they moved up to get Iowa guy, DeJean Cooper or Cooper DeJean, whatever his name is. But Washington takes Mike Sainristil, and obviously they had another pick 3 picks later. We'll get to him in a second. What do we think about Sainristil, fellas?
I mean, they took the best nickel cornerback in the draft. I'm happy that they did that so that Ben can primarily focus on playing the boundary. That's what they originally drafted him for, was to play outside corner. And for whatever reason, throughout the process, they decided to put Ben into the slot. Mike now coming in as the pick from out of Michigan. Him and Ben already have a rapport with each other, as Ben formerly was at Michigan before transferring to Minnesota. And they both are of Haitian descent. I think that'll just add to the camaraderie. Ben is pretty close to Emmanuel Forbes. I think all those guys got helped out in the secondary as far as getting that pick, because now you got a guy that's primarily going to play the slot position, and you could just focus the other guys on playing the boundaries or whatever. I love it. I think he's a guy that has been adjusting to the position as he played wide receiver, even at the pro day. With Michigan this year, he caught routes for J.J. McCarthy. He ran wide receiver routes because he's converted wide receiver to corner. So he's going to be able to lock in and hone in on his technique with the staff that they have in place, from Joe Witt Jr.'s, the William Gays, the Jason Simmons, and other guys that are working over there in the defensive back room. I love it. I think that he's going to be a hell of a playmaker at that position. Is something that they desperately needed, someone that can, take over that slot position, whether it be in coverage, playing the run, and also being a blitzer. He's displayed, I should say, all of those traits and the ability to do so at Michigan, and I think it's going to continue because he's coming out of NFL style defense already out of Michigan.
What's interesting to me is something we're all going to follow as fans is we had pick 40 and we traded that, of course, to the Eagles for 50 and 53. That's going to be talked about for years with Cooper DeJean versus Sainristil and Sinnott. But more so, I'm interested in Cooper DeJean versus Sainristil because that tells me that the front office really likes Sainristil. And they had him rated over Cooper DeJean, who some people were questioning why did Washington pass that up and give that to Philly. So that's going to be interesting if they come out on top with that. But as far as Sainristil goes, man, I think he's a day one starter at the nickel position. I mean, I love watching him in Michigan. The one thing you notice about him, I mean, he's not like the fastest dude on the field or anything, but he's the most instinctual at corner, and that's how you make plays. It's like he's diagnosing plays, a second or two before the rest of the offense or the rest of the defense. He's able to jump some of those routes. He's able to make those big plays, and I mean, he's also a leader on that. He was also a leader on that defense. He was like the glue of the Michigan defense, and that was one of the toughest defenses, if not the toughest defense in all of America last year. So, I mean, that's the type of stuff that translates to the next level. I mean, I think that adds to culture. I know we're tired of hearing that word as culture, but I do think that that's the real stuff that translates and bring that type of, attitude and that culture and what Joe Witt Jr. and those guys are looking for. But, I mean, I think we are starting to see that, they're going to want playmakers all in that backfield because they set the front seven up this way to have those guys to try to capitalize, on some of these plays. Like last year, I think Emmanuel Forbes was the only playmaking guy that we had, or at least that was the idea we had for him. No one else in that secondary you can really call that. But now you're adding to that with a Sainristil. So I just love the pick.
For me, same thing. Like I do like the pick. Like you're getting immediate competition at that slot position. They needed that. I think even the last couple of years, even with the idea of like that rotation that they had last year. Like think about it this way, bro. I hate going back to this era with that double R head coach. But like, what are we doing? Like spending time with Emmanuel Forbes in the slot, Ben St. Juste in the slot. Who else was rotating in the slot, bro? Like all these Quan Martin in the slot, like all of these different pieces in the slot in preseason, mind you, and training camp and in mini camps and all that stuff, mind you. Talking about position versatility is going to make them smarter. Just makes them think too damn much.
That means he didn't have a plan. They didn't have a plan.
They had no plan. They thought that was the best way to develop these players, right? Bro. And let alone these motherfuckers just thinking too much, bro. And I think for Sainristil, he has a clearly defined role just by his frame alone, bro. What is he? 5'9", I think, 185, 180 something, 182. I think so knowing that he's going to be available in the slot is good. I think the main thing, and honestly, like the overall key, I think it was Dre, you hinted on it too a little bit, but the overall key throughout the theme of this draft is like captains and leaders. Somebody who can stand out on whichever side of the ball that they're on from a standpoint of like knowing how to communicate. And I think and knowing how to keep like people mentally focused and locked in on whatever the team needs out of those players. I think that's big for a Sainristil. I do think there is one thing that I think we need to discuss because there is now precedence. Emmanuel Forbes came in last year at like 180 something or maybe 170 something. I'm not too sure. And he's like 6'1", 6'2". It's important to acknowledge the fact that Sainristil is 5'9" and 180. That's somewhat compact, but at the same time, like if you're on the field, teams are going to look at you. They're going to try and find you and test you. And whether that's like screens your way, whether that's sending 300-pound linemen your way, whether that's running the ball your way. And I think for Sainristil, nobody's going to be scared of him until he starts proving himself as that tough guy defender that he was in Michigan on the NFL level. So his size, I think, is one thing that's going to stand out in terms of like, can he overcome what can say like the odds are stacked against them from a frame standpoint, right? Can he overcome that? We'll see. And I think it was important to worth noting because Emmanuel Forbes really didn't have any injuries coming out of college. His first year in the NFL, he's dealing with an elbow injury that damn near the whole season. And obviously we saw how he was trying to tackle it. It just didn't look good. So I think that's probably my main thing with Sainristil, but you all hit the nail on the head with everything else in terms of what he brings to this team. All right. Ben Sinnott, Kansas State tight end, pick number 53 for Washington. Where are we at with this one?
Look, I'll go first because this was actually, I don't know if we're still doing this or not, but this is my most interesting pick, man, honestly. Ben Sinnott. The more I looked at it, I mean, you're hearing every name you hear for him that's comp for him. I mean, you hear Laporta, you hear Juice from San Francisco, you hear Kittle, and even his athletic profile. When you look up the RAS scores and the comparisons, the most similar guy that's athletically built to him is T.J. Hawkinson. That's another perennial Pro Bowler in the NFL. So, I mean, for me, when I'm looking at a Ben Sinnott, I'm looking at a guy that's probably got the highest floor of the draft picks, if you want to put it that way, because you know, if you get mentioned with all those names and you're coming from, or Adam Peters thinks so highly of you, you know, you got to put that in different regard because of how they scouted the tight ends at the San Francisco. But then when you go watch the tape, I mean, the guy's physical as hell. He kind of reminds me of an old Redskins tight end, Chris Cooley, in a sense. I mean, of that prototype of guys that can kind of
in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, of guys that can kind of do the receiving and the blocking. I mean, I guess that's why some people were saying before the draft, like, Mual, I think it was you. I could be wrong, but it wasn't that you didn't like this Ben Sinnott, but you were saying if you're looking for a specific profile or a specific player, that's who Ben Sinnott is. Like, if you want this, you go for this guy who's better at this. Whereas Ben Sinnott, he can kind of do it all. He may not have the, catching ability of, Brock Bowers, or he might not be the best blocker, but I think he's really good at both, and that raises his floor. So I think he's going to, and then he's also learning from Zach Ertz, which I love as well. That's another vet in the tight end room that's going to help him be a pro and teach him some things. I mean, just everything you hear about him, even the hockey background from the guy. I mean, that stuff just helps because you see it with his fluidity. He's a really good athlete. Like, I mean, the athletic profile, he's one of those RAS heroes. So, I mean, the floor for me is so high for him that makes him the most interesting pick for Washington.
Yeah, when it comes to Ben Sinnott, I mean, I'm not necessarily a fan of his at that position. But, Adam Peters said that when he looked at him, he reminded him of Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle, who I believe to be two different type of players. So I don't know how he's seen both of them in him. But, either way, this offense is going to be predicated on creating mismatches, and I don't really see Sinnott, even at the tight end position, being able to create those mismatches. I don't really look at him as being like a receiving threat in that regard. Dre, you brought up reminding you of Cooley in a sense. I don't know.
Did you like Cooley?
No, I didn't like Cooley, but I mean, but that could also be like some off the field shit. I ain't rock with that motherfucker. So yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, either way, I wasn't really, when it comes to the tight end position for me, like what I like the Travis Kelce's of the world. I like the Jordan Reeds. I like, more athletic guys that can break things down in the route tree and can make plays after the catch. So that's not.
You don't like the Jason Wittens. What about the Jason Wittens?
No, I'm not a Jason Witten guy where you're finding.
But those are reliable tight ends,
coverage. Yeah, that's cool and all, but I feel like with this particular offense, with this particular offense, I feel like you could use that additional threat as being able to break down routes and not just necessarily always find the soft spot in the coverage. That's already what the offense is going to be calling for all the receiving threats. They're going to have to be able to understand coverages and know what option route to run. So I'm not necessarily a fan of it, but we'll see what happens when he gets on the field. He'll be able to learn but he'll be able to learn alongside of Zach Ertz, who can bring a lot of knowledge to the game to him and different nuances. But if Adam Peters, the guy that's making the picks, feels like he reminds him of Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle, let's see what happens. You feel me?
Yeah, like I think the way I've been looking at it this whole time is focusing on what I don't think he can do. And that's I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. I do think the way I should be looking at this is like how they view it and like how they want to use him in certain spots, right? They don't like they was very specific in like how they wanted
Dang, I
to
ain't even turn
utilize.
off my mic. My damn nose is killing me over here.
Oh yeah, nah, you
You can
good,
turn it
bro.
off now.
Yeah, go ahead, mute yourself,
I'm
brother.
like, bro, I need to dig in my nose, and I forgot I ain't turn off the mic.
Hey, bro. Damn.
I
Oh,
made
so
the noise, and I said, oh
you
shit.
did. You did, bro. Hey, don't even bother, bro. I didn't burp on the mic. Nobody heard it though. So you could
I'm
have just
like,
kept
yo,
quiet,
my
bro.
nose is itching like crazy, bro.
So like my perspective is, or my opinion of Ben is what it is, but I also think that if I view my perspective from the lens of like we want to use him in line, we want to use him detached from the line, we want to use him as your H. Like as long as they don't use him isolated out wide on the boundary, as long as they don't use him consistently in the slot, right? I like literally use him as that move tight end. I would understand that. Like, don't expose him to his weaknesses, and that's kind of where I guess my main concern is. Again, I haven't finished. Why I'm gonna go run through Ben again, run through Ben Sinnott's tape again, and try to figure this thing out. But yeah, this is probably the one where I would say it. Well, I wouldn't even say it's not questionable to me because I understand their process. And I even felt like that throughout all of their drafts. Like if you think something makes sense to you, let's see how you deploy it on the field. So like that's kind of the one thing for me. But if I had to label one thing, it's questionable and intriguing, or what was it? Questionable and
Or intriguing.
interesting. Oh yeah. All right, here we go. Yeah. I would probably say this one is questionable. Either this one or the McCaffrey one. But I see what they did with McCaffrey too, and we're gonna get to that in a second. So like it's just so many different.
I must be Stevie Wonder because I
know AJ. You know he don't like that.
So there's a thing with some of these guys, and I think we're going to start with Brandon Coleman next, and this is kind of where we're going to start tapping into some of the things with these players, right? Obviously we see people in the chat, they talked about the athletic score. We talked about it on our show and our discussion as well. But yeah, I'll just label Ben as the most questionable. But I understand what they want to do. All right, Brandon Coleman. Film session on Brandon Coleman is coming out within the next day or so. So look forward to that. It'll be on the YouTube, the Trapper Dive YouTube side. I'll probably write an article just to kind of encapsulate the film session too. So that'll be on Hogs Haven. But I'll give y'all the floor on Coleman. What do you all think about this pick? Obviously, he's had time at tackle. He's had time at guard with TCU. But yeah, they took Brandon Coleman at 67.
I mean, I think when it comes to Brandon Coleman, I'm not going to sit here and act like I knew a lot about him coming in. To be honest with you, I didn't know him at all coming into this process. Wasn't someone.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. I ain't know him either, bro.
It's not someone that was on my radar as far as like left tackle prospects for this team. There were still some guys on the board that I thought they would look at from Kyron Amagaji, Christian Jones, and so on. But, you know, they decided to go with Brandon Coleman. I think he's in a position where if it pans out, they look like geniuses. I just think when it comes to left tackles and right tackles in this league, you're not going to find elite or great ones that enter free agency. So the best that you can do is to draft some guys and hope to develop them. And maybe he ends up developing into a left tackle. I can't necessarily see him playing guard on the next level in the NFL. But if he pans out at left tackle, they'll look like geniuses, and a lot of people within the fan base will feel stupid as well because they wanted them to get someone much higher regard as far as what the pundits been saying at that position. But you know, I can't really sit here and say I broke down a bunch of his film. Yeah, we'll just have to see how it plays out in preseason. I think that we also have to remember, even though they didn't draft this player, but Jayden Daniels, the left tackle that Rivera and company drafted last year, he possibly could be up for the job at left tackle as well. Like, he's pretty athletic. I think that they both came in drafted with potential and being a bit raw. So I think the left tackle position is up for grabs.
I think this was the biggest boomer bust pick in the draft for them, and I think the process here was swing for the fences in the third round, and I think you saw that because from my theory, some fans were kind of pissed that they walked out of the first 2 rounds without a tackle. I don't think they liked any of the tackles after the first round. Like some of those guys that were in between that first and third round, like in that second round, the guys that were available there, I don't think they, thought highly of them, or maybe they didn't think they projected well at the next level for LT. But I think with Brandon Coleman, as some people doesn't know if he's going to project to tackle or if he's going to project to guard. But if you look at his athletic profile again, I mean, this has kind of been the theme of the draft. He has a similar profile to some of the good ones in the league. I mean, even Trent Williams. I mean, some of his athletic scores are on that level. So if this is one of those picks that if it does boom, you did find a bookend left tackle in the third round, which is when you don't really necessarily find bookend tackles off all the time. So, and I'm completely fine with taking the swing there. Like if those third and fourth rounds, that's where you take those home run swings. They didn't play it conservative there again, and this could be the biggest bust of the draft as well, because if he doesn't work out at left tackle, as some people project him as guard, I mean, who knows? Even AJ said he doesn't know if he could play guard. Maybe he doesn't work out at guard at the next level. But if he works out at left tackle, that's a bookend. But it could go really south as well if it doesn't work. And I think you'll know pretty early on. We'll know if he could play left tackle in this league, probably in training camp.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel like after you've seen the entire draft be completed, do you feel like they should have took more swings at potential guys that could play left and right tackle within this draft?
But that just goes to that will be a question for them to see where did they rate these guys. See, I think a lot of times, like that's why I don't think you saw them take one of those swings in the second round. Maybe they didn't see a home run type of guy in those second rounds, because I don't remember who all was available.
But I'm saying like even later in the draft. So instead of taking maybe a Baptiste, the defensive end, maybe trying another guard. Like, some teams took Detroit Lions, for example, they took the tackle coming out of the International Pathway program. Do we feel a little bit weird about the position because they only took a stab at one guy?
Well, I think that's even harder to project when you're talking about going up to the seventh rounds. I mean, to me, it's not much difference between a seventh rounder and an undrafted free agent. I mean, they did sign a guy, tackling UDFA. I mean, who knows? He could be as similar as that pathway guy. I haven't looked at him admittedly, but I mean, that's, when you're talking about those, yeah. Well, I mean, when you talk about those later rounds, I mean, I don't even know if you're talking about home runs anymore at that point. You're just talking about maybe guys that could probably stick in or fit in on the roster or whatnot. So I think that's a little different from kind of taking that swing in the third round where some of those guys still there. The rest of the league probably thinks as highly of them as well. So, I mean, that's where I think you do take those swings in the third and the fourth rounds. The seventh rounds, I think, like I said, you're just kind of hoping for a guy that might can be a camp body and stick around. And maybe, who knows, he could project to be a Cam Curl.
So I'm gonna get into the answer, but I want to point out, JB, while I appreciate you mentioning that he didn't. Well, I don't know if he did or didn't. I'm just acknowledging your statement. They lost 65-7 against the Georgia Bulldogs.
Whole damn team ain't look good.
The whole team ain't look good.
Nope.
I would love to see how they looked against Michigan the week before, or 2 weeks before that. Instead of that Georgia game, not to ignore the tape, but they were way more competitive in the game against the Michigan Wolverines. I like him at tackle. I understand from everybody who are the locals who have been commenting on his projection, and even from the Commanders themselves, they see him as a tackle. I think it was John Keim who said something along the lines of he was talking with Commander staff where they had told him they were, or maybe it was JP. I can't remember. They were confident that he is a left tackle on the next level. And like what I saw even validated that, like, you don't get, first off, his arm length is incredible or really good in terms for a tackle size or a tackle position, left tackle at that. right? But also like how he plays the game as a left tackle when he's out there. I think majority of his snaps in 2022 came when he was at left tackle. And then obviously in 2023, his first 6 or 7 games was at guard. And then the last remaining games of the season for TCU, like the last 7 or 8 were at tackle, left tackle. And I think how he plays in space, it's one of them burps. How he plays in space is really good. I think that he understands set points. He understands, like he has a really good angle set. I think that he has a somewhat of an understanding of a jump set, which is like being more aggressive at the line of scrimmage. But like he understands these things. He's quick with his hands. He's active with his hands. He has a powerful punch when he does his strikes. In pass protection, he seems really comfortable. He has independent hand usage. He can work one hand and keep this other one occupied doing something else to win that engagement. Everything that he does in terms of like now he's not perfect technically, like from a technical standpoint, but like the traits and where I was getting at before we got into Coleman and even to when we get into Luke, like I understand, and this is my most interesting pick, by the way. This is my most interesting pick for me. I really liked what I saw, and I was surprised by what I saw because I was like, when I'm writing my shit down, I'm like, bro, like I don't got that many negatives. Like I didn't have that many negatives, and I think that was surprising. And it was more so from the point of I just didn't know who he was. So I'm like, how the fuck? But obviously that's their job.
Did you like his footwork? Because I mean, what I watched, I ain't really like his footwork too much.
I think there was times in like pass
slow
protection,
feet, and he's not really the greatest in run blocking situations. Like you don't see his size really come into play in the run game too much.
I thought he was really good off the line. I thought he had some good initial quickness. I thought his footwork in terms of like pass protection was good. I think the one thing, if I had to say something that I did notice that pops out sometimes is like when he's engaging in defenders, like he'll rely on that punch, right? Or that two-hand strike or that one-hand strike, and then he'll leave his feet behind. So like sometimes it's not like married where he's like actively mirroring defender while he's like engaged with his hands. So those sometimes happen. There's also sometimes where you'll see instances where he's up against a rusher with a really good rush plan, like an idea of how he wants to attack this person, and they're athletic or they're quick, right? And like those counter moves that they set him up with can beat him. So like I think there's some instances where he can struggle and he can get exposed, not in a negative, like he just has to work on some things, but there are some instances where he can definitely like have a technical issue where his feet can stop moving. But from an athletic standpoint or just like a consistency standpoint, I thought that he was pretty impressive. The run game part that you mentioned, though, AJ, I did think that was interesting because if there was one thing that I saw negative, it's more so just like the inability to like really generate a full push, like in those one-on-one situations. He's good on combos. He can reach the second level fine. He has good vision. And like he takes solid angles to like the next level and things like that. But in terms of like those one-on-ones with those bigs, right? Those 3 techniques, and maybe a little bit inside, like those shaded guys. Like I don't know how much push he can really generate. Sometimes he can leave his head a little bit too low. And that can kind of allow defenders to shed the block and get over top of him or counter, use their hands to beat him quickly. So like those were some issues in the run game, but yeah, I think coming into the league, bro, like I think he has all of the traits that you can really win with at left tackle. So I'm interested, bro. I really like, bro. I really like him. But it depends. Like people ask me, like, do I think he's a day one starter? Like even with me saying everything, I have no idea. Like he still has to beat out Cornelius Lucas. And I'm not even that big of a fan of Cornelius Lucas, by the way. Like as much as people love to say that he's like this amazing backup, I had issues with Cornelius Lucas for a couple years now. But even still, he's the pro. He understands the game at a pro level. And you're talking about a rookie having to come in and beat him. You got to see if he can beat him out. But like, I think the idea of him becoming a starter, like, that's not far fetched. It may not be week 1, but it may be some point of the season. Who knows? Or it may just be next year. But yeah, I like Coleman, man. I like Coleman.
Hey, you see what Maine said in the chat? Maine said he might take off for rookie mini camp and listen to the radio all day for the updates.
Oh damn, I missed it. I can't even find him.
You trying
training camp. I can't wait for
trying to get fired from your job, bro.
Hey, he about to use all this leave on the mini camp week, bro. That's crazy. I'm trying to go this time. Again.
You ain't about to learn nothing from rookie mini camp.
No,
hey,
you really don't.
We're going to hear about Jayden Daniels, though. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be his first little practice in a pro uniform. Hey, I want to hear how he look on rookie mini camp. I might take a whole 2-hour lunch break, Jermaine.
My last time I had credentials, bro, it was the year that Dwayne Haskins was the rookie, bro. And I never forget it because it was Dwayne there, and then it was Vinny Papali. He playing the UFL now. But Papali was there, like that Eagles superstar, you know, the dude they made the movie after.
Oh yeah, I know
Vince Papali. Oh yeah, so his son was at his son was at the mini camp. But to your point, to what AJ said, bro, like even with Dwayne being there, like he threw a couple zips, but it wasn't really much to discuss. Like it wasn't much to come out of that mini camp
was there,
for like. Terry was there too.
Yeah,
oh damn, Terry was there too.
That was a Terry draft.
Yeah, and I don't remember a damn thing about Terry at that mini camp.
You're not gonna learn nothing. It's just bring the guys in, let them start looking for their cribs. You know, build some type of camaraderie, but you just hope that nobody get hurt that you actually drafted.
Yeah. And speaking of receivers, fellas, Luke McCaffrey. We're gonna stop at the top 6. We'll worry about the other guys in the next show. But the top 6 were like the major picks. We can kind of assume and obviously as time goes on, get an understanding of the other guys. But like those are some depth pieces, special teams guys to start out. But where are we at? Luke McCaffrey, pick number 100. For the Commanders, wide receiver out of Rice. Obviously, we know he has that pedigree with Christian and Ed. Where are you all at with Luke?
We know where AJ's standing is.
I feel like for what the wide receiver room needed, that wasn't it. I really don't see it at all. I don't know what they really plan to do with him. Because I thought in this offense that Jahad Dotson would be primarily used as the slot guy. I felt like a lot of my criticism comes from who was on the board at the time when they made this selection. You still had, if you wanted the slot guy, you had one of the better slot guys remaining still on the board, Malik Washington from UVA on the board. You had Javon Baker still on the board. And you also had a guy in Troy Franklin who fits perfectly within Cliff Kingsbury type of offensive scheme that was on the board. So to not go with one of those options at that pick and go with Luke McCaffrey kind of just like threw me off. Like it really threw me off altogether. I don't know what he's going to become. I know that he's still getting used to the position as he used to be a former quarterback and safety or whatever, but I don't see it. I see that he struggles to get off the line. There's a reason why there's a bunch of contested catches and that percentage is so high for him is because of the separation issues. I just don't see it, but I know how the draft works. I know how things work relationship-wise, whatever. I mean, even Adam Peters kind of alluded to it. Chris McCaffrey texts Adam Peters during the draft like, hey, go ahead and grab bro. So, not saying that's necessarily what happened, but I don't see it. Like if I'm sitting at that pick and I got Troy Franklin that's available at 6'3", yeah, he's kind of slender, 180, 170 something, and he has speed, I'd rather go get that guy than a Luke McCaffrey. I'm sorry, bro. Like that's just not where I'm going with my 4th round pick, and I got actual real talent at the position on the board. Like, nah, I'm not rocking with it. But If it works, it works. I'll come on here and be like, hey, I'm proven wrong. But my main issue, and I started kind of the show with this, was I don't feel like there's enough talent in the wide receiver room for Jayden Daniels right now. I don't know what's going to happen. We've talked about it on the show. We've also asked the likes of Adam Schefter about Brandon Ayuk. We keep seeing Brandon Ayuk on Jayden Daniels' page. He's bringing him up, best friend, different things. He doesn't have a contract. There's a bunch of wide receivers that have gotten paid in the last week, as far as Amon St. Brown, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, and so on. And there's going to be a shit ton of other wide receivers going to get paid. I just feel like they need to bring more weapons into this wide receiver room for Jayden Daniels. I know people are going to be like, oh, we're rebuilding. I don't look at this as a rebuild. I definitely don't look at it as a rebuild at all. I feel like you got to do whatever you can to surround your guy with talent. You just seen a team last year with Bryce Young as the number 1 pick in Carolina. They didn't surround him with enough wide receiver talent.
But I want to pause right there because you mentioned
Okay.
only because you mentioned Carolina. Now there's two, because I was actually going to say, like, I think that, so there's like layers things, right? Like, you've been on the Brandon Ayuk train for a minute. Honestly think that that ship sailed for me the second we didn't make no noise in the draft, and also even before that, hearing Adam say that, you know, Washington even, like, he didn't hear anything about Washington, right? But to that point, and just talking about the receivers, when you mentioned Carolina, well, first and foremost, Carolina doesn't even have a Terry on their team.
I mean, that's what I was going to say.
They also don't have.
But I got cut off by Mual.
They also don't have a. They don't have a Jahan.
They don't have a Jahan.
That's just kind of where. That's just kind of where I was at.
You want to say that? Dotson? What is Jahan Dotson?
Look, y'all know how I feel about Jahan, bro. Like, I don't think
I like him too. I'm a Jahan dude.
I
don't think last year did him any favors, bro. Honestly, bro. I don't know what the fuck that was. But it was like, he couldn't catch no breaks, bro. He couldn't catch no breaks. Nah, and then anytime he dropped the pass, bro, like, he only dropped like 5. People said he was some shit. I'm like, bro, like, what, bro?
Right.
But
Terry had his worst season as a pro last year. Jahan had his worst season as a pro last year. But to me, it's more of an anomaly than it is. This is who these guys are. So I mean, I still think you do have talent at the wide receiver position. I think there's something in that room. I mean, yeah, it's not probably top 8 or top 10 in the league, but I do think you're doing better than a lot of other teams are doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Jamal,
I don't want to make an argument to say that they're elite, AJ. I was more so just want to say, like, I think to our case, we got to take into the fact that, one, Jayden is the superstar here. Like, he's going to be the thing that makes this whole thing go work anyway. Like, that's just is what it is. So that's kind of where I was like, even with that being known, I think that you'll be okay this year with the receiving core, knowing that Jayden is like this, that he has elite traits within himself as well. That's where I was going.
Yeah, AJ, I was just gonna say for you, this is gonna be for you, actually. I mean, and you could possibly be putting yourself in a situation of next year. I mean, you can answer this after you go and say what you're gonna say. But next year in the draft, when you're looking at it, you could be in a position where the Bengals were in after Joe Burrow's first year, where you're looking at a Penei Sewell or you're looking at a Jamar Chase. And I think you could have a real live, legit possibility of that with Washington next year, where you're looking at a top flight wide receiver to go along with a Jayden Daniels versus the best OT prospect. And then you can answer this: which way would you go after that? After you say what you're gonna say,
like, which way would I go in the draft process?
As far as if you got a Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell for your young quarterback, which way are you going?
I mean, it all depends on how this year goes. If the year goes like how it did for, let's say, the Cincinnati Bengals, when they did have to make that decision, I would go get a Jamar Chase. I feel like that's a generational wide receiver. There's going to be some wide receivers out next year. Luther Burden from out of Missouri. Maybe Travis Hunter commits full-time to wide receiver. There's a bunch of other guys, right? But I think for me, I'm not even focused on next year. Like, I'm focused on right now. And there's wide receivers that you could potentially make some calls on and see what's up. Besides even a Brandon Ayuk, you still got the T. Higgins of the world out there as well. I just don't want Jayden Daniels to be in a situation where we know Terry McLaurin had a turf toe last season, right? He fought through it, but that shit could come right back up as soon as they ramp up, really like getting after on the field. Now, if Terry McLaurin is hurt, you're telling me that you're gonna count on Jamison Crowder, Jahad Dotson, Luke McCaffrey, quit. I don't even know how to say buddy names.
Zacchaeus.
Oh yeah, Alamalu.
Yeah.
That's his name.
Yeah, you're
I'll
gonna
mess it up.
count on those guys to
That's
be your
right.
wide receivers. I just feel like I would like to get more talent in that room. Yeah, I've been mentioning the IU thing. The reason why I kind of keep harping on that is because that's literally Jayden Daniels' guy. That's his best friend. Like, there's a reason why I feel like I keep bringing that up, because I feel as though that relationship, Adam Peters already knows the guy as well. So there's so many dots to connect there. But even if you can't pull off the Brandon Ayuk thing, man, go get T. Higgins. Like, you have all this capital, you have these assets, go and use them to put yourself in the best position, because ultimately they want to win. They're not trying to win the Super Bowl per se year one, but they're trying to be a factor within the NFC, not just the NFC East, but overall. So I don't want to hear anything about this rebuild, whatever. They already told us.
AJ, you kind of been unfair right now. You've been a little unfair. I don't think, because I'm just gonna say, in year one, are you really gonna blame them too much for not wanting to commit at least the resources as far as financial, like the financial resource to that? Because now you're locking yourself up to this guy for a couple of years. When wide receiver, as we know, is a position you can get guys in the draft and they ascend every year. So I mean, do you want to commit in your first year to a wide receiver? In year two or year three, I get your argument, but in year one, what is the urgency?
The urgency is I want my quarterback to succeed straight out the gate. Like, I want to hit on all cylinders. I want to see what this offense can be truly made out of. Like, that is what I want to see. Ultimately, I'm not concerned about year two, year three, whatever. I feel like if you have opportunities to strike on players that you've already seen proven in the league, and you have the assets to do so, whether it be draft capital and you have the financial resources, go and make it happen. Because in reality, you can get out of Terry McLaurin's contract next year, and he's going to be either 29 or 30 years old. So you really don't have a young wide receiver that I feel like could be either elite or, I guess you could say, the same status as Terry McLaurin to grow with your quarterback. So that's where I'm at. I'm not really concerned about the draft class next year. I see two young guys in front of me with potential to go with the pairing of Terry McLaurin, Jahad Dotson, the Zach Ertz of the world, the Ben Sinnotts of the world, the Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson, Jayden Daniels. If I could bring in a T. Higgins or a Brandon Ayuk and give up maybe a third or second round pick and pay him some damn money, why wouldn't I do that?
I think honestly, bro, like on principle, when we're talking about the receiver position, I tend to agree with you. I agree that like there isn't, like, you can always, first off, if you can get another top tier receiver to pair with Terry, you know, I don't know how true of a number one Ayuk or T is, like, that's to be determined. But at the same time, there's still like they're an upper echelon receiver, put it that way, right?
Let me ask
I'd be cool with that. All right, well, hold on 1 second then. Like, I'd be cool with that, right? But like the thing with me that kind of where I'm at this point, and in terms of just even understanding what Washington has done to this point of the season, like, look at now. Granted, we got to take into account, like, there was so many holes going into this offseason that, like, nothing is going to get, or everything isn't going to get repaired in one off season, right? But like, they've tried their best defensively to fill in some key spots on the defensive line, linebacker, and done some things here and there in the secondary. I still don't think the secondary is strong enough, right? But the front seven, for sure, they've done a solid job of repairing it. The offensive line, they did what they could, but they got their franchise guy and quarterback, right, where Jayden Daniels, again, superstar, elite traits, and they're trying to, from a player standpoint in certain positions, they're trying to insulate them as much as possible. It's not necessarily all on the offensive side of football, but offensive side of the ball. But at the same time, I think that's kind of where we're talking about, like, even if you don't get that receiver, they need to try and protect him as much as possible, whether it's through the run game, the coaching staff who can collaborate and keep these guys in a position to stay on the field, or the defense who can create turnovers and give these guys extra possessions. Like, there's so many different things that can protect Jayden Daniels. And like, the receiver is one aspect, but if Terry and Jahan can't do it, in addition to Zach and the tight ends, then like I can't. I have a hard time saying this is going to be a bottom third offense in the NFL. I have a hard time saying that. I'm not going to lie to you.
But look, so here's my thing on the whole offense. I think a lot of people are kind of overlooking how Adam Peters in the front office may actually feel about some of the talent that they have on offense. We've seen them not be shy at all in upgrading the talent, at the positions on defense, at the defensive end spots. I mean, they went out and they signed 3 guys in free agency. They added a guy in the draft. And the linebacker room, they completely revamped the linebacker room. But these were things that we knew. We knew that the talent was deficient in those 2 position groups, and they were really aggressive in attacking those positions. So it was nothing stopping them, in a sense, from kind of attacking the wide receiver position and going really hard at that wide receiver position. But for me, it says that they actually like Terry McLaurin and they actually like Jahan Dotson. Like, they've had no problem upgrading and replacing guys. I mean, hell, they traded Sam Howell before the draft even started, where a lot of fans thought more highly of him than obviously Adam Peters did. So I think this is a case where we're kind of overlooking how they may feel about the wide receiver room as it is. I mean, I'm not saying that they think that they have a bunch of stars in this wide receiver room, but I do think they're looking at that wide receiver group and feeling like they have more than enough to kind of surround and insulate a rookie quarterback with. Like, I think Jayden Daniels could do a lot worse coming into this league with Terry McLaurin and Dotson and even a Ertz and a Sinnott now, versus what a Drake May is coming into. Like, who's the receiver group over there in New England, that you're excited to surround that rookie quarterback with, so that's why I say I think that they actually kind of value and look at what they have and they say, we have something here. And worse
go
comes
get Odell, bro.
I mean, yeah, and this does not mean that they're not going to upgrade this position at some point. They could still trade for IU, and that's fine. But I mean, I don't think that we should shun them and kind of and be disappointed if they don't go out and spend that resource on year one. Worst comes to worst, all right, maybe Dotson isn't that guy. You replace Dotson in a year. I'm sure you can go out and find someone better than Dotson in the draft. You'll be picking. I don't think you're going to be picking in the 20s. You're more than likely going to be picking in the early teens or maybe even top 10 again next year, because you're not ready to. At least in year one, I'm not expecting you to go out there and go win the division. If that happens, that's a bonus. I love it, but that's not my expectation for year one. So I mean,
OBJ.
Let me ask y'all real quick before we get up out of here. What are your expectations for year one? Or what are your expectations overall right now? Like, do you look at this as a rebuild, a recalibration, as they said, or do you look at it as an opportunity for them to gain playoff positioning in year one with what they've done so far that you've seen with the staff, additions free agency wise, and the draft up until it's May tomorrow? Yeah.
Yeah,
I was say I believe them when they say that. Well, first off, like, they can slice however they want to, like, retool, rebuild. I do think that this man is disconnected. Oh, you're gonna miss my answer. Oh, there you go, perfect timing. There you go, AJ. I haven't started yet. I believe that this is a rebuild, but I also believe that they believe that it's actually a retool. Like, I think that they're not even accepting the fact that they're going to have like some slump. Like, they're just trying to get these new players in it and drastically change this culture up to where, they can compete in year one. So expectations, AJ, that you asked me, I think that it's as simple as, I think that they're coming in, they're trying to hit the ground rolling. Like, they're trying to come in and really FSU, fuck shit up. So, like, I understand that. And I'm not even mad for their line of thinking. I don't know how far that's going to take them, but I do think from a competitive standpoint, this is all listening on their words and taking them at their word. They are looking to make the playoffs. They are looking to accomplish. They aren't looking for like short-term goals, like small wins. They really want to show that they are serious. So my expectations, AJ, is that this is going to be a team that's out here competing for the division.
And I can answer my expectation. I mean, honestly, it's something similar to what you felt like after Dan Campbell and Detroit finished his first season. I mean, even though that season they only won 3 games now, I don't want to go into the season with the expectation that we're going to win 3 games. But I think everyone looked at what Detroit did that season and said, that's a team that's going to eventually come up. You know, that's a coach that's getting guys to kind of rally around them. Like you saw the toughness that they played with, the competitiveness. I mean, that's what I'm going to be looking for. I mean, ideally, you know, if we're not going to be a playoff team, I want to be in the 6 to 8 win range, where I feel like, man, like that was a quick turnaround. At least, I mean, for me, that's a turnaround from what we were at. If we're in that 6 to 8 range, and then we are challenging the Eagles, we're getting a division win here and there. Like we're not just getting swept in the division. Like we're showing the division that we're coming. That's the expectation for me. Now, anything more than that, oh yes, absolutely, I would love it. I won't turn it down. It's just not going to be my expectation for year one. And I don't think that's a fair expectation for a team that's coming off of winning 4 games in a season. You just picked number 2 in the draft. So, I mean, I know a lot of fans, you know, are very optimistic and, oh man, we can win a division. I hope you're right. But I wouldn't go and put my money on that right now. Like I said, right now, and I just want to see that we are responding to Dan Quinn. I want to see Jayden Daniels show a lot of flashes that he's going to be something in this league. I mean, but if he goes out there and he has a damn CJ Stroud type of season, and that's what it's going to take for me to say that's a playoff team in year one, you know, of this whole recalibration or rebuild or whatever you want to call it. Like Jayden Daniels actually has to go out there and have that CJ Stroud type of season. And that's an unfair expectation to put on him. But I don't doubt that he can do it. I just won't put that expectation and bet on it. So right now, I just want a competitive team. We go out there, we feel good about everybody, not just Jayden Daniels. We got to feel good about Dan Quinn. We got to feel good about the draft picks that Adam Peters has put out there, even Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Like, I want to come out of this season feeling good about all of those things going forward into year 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think my expectations, it has to be to double what they did win-wise from last year. If you could win 4 games with Ron Rivera and the staff that he put together and the players and how they were being utilized, with this staff and the players that you have brought into the fold, you should be at minimum to be able to get 8 wins. You got 4 under Ron Rivera and his terrible ass coaching and management. You should be able to get 8 wins. You should be competitive enough to be in the race to get a playoff berth within the NFC ranks. I don't know. I'm not in belief of rebuilds. I don't think that's really a real thing anymore. Because these coaches know that they can get fired at any given moment. I don't think they get the opportunity to necessarily sit back and fuck around. You feel me? And say year 2, we could do this. Year 3, we could do that. I think you got to hit the ground running immediately. And if you feel like you're that better of a coach and, you know, the staff that you put together, if this particular team with how many additions they had to make up for with last year's roster got 4 wins, you should be able to get 8. And you got money to spend. So that's where it's like I hate having these conversations about adding players when it's like, bro, you're not paying nobody. You're not paying anyone. And this is the reason why you take a quarterback so that you don't have to be stuck to a long-term contract. This is when you really hit on these points.
But AJ, so just to be clear though, like if they don't reach 8 wins, are you disappointed in the season? Are you disappointed in Quinn? Are you disappointed in Peters?
This was a bad season. If you got 4 wins with Ron Rivera and he got a high school DB coach coaching DBs in the NFL, you got Jack Del Rio and his poor defense, then he gets fired and Ron Rivera's running the show and you won 4 games with Dan Quinn, the staff that he's built up and the additions that they made from a veteran standpoint and also from the draft, and you add in a threat of a quarterback passing and running, you should be able to get 8 wins. If you don't get 8 wins, then it's a disappointment in my eyes.
Well, I'm not gonna put a number on it, but I agree with AJ. If the specific question is if they come back and get 4 dubs.
No, I mean, yeah, right. It's got to be a line. It's got to be a line you draw. That's why I said 6 to 8 for me. I'm putting them in that box 6 to 8.
Bro, Dre, 2 more wins than Ron Rivera. It's like, bro, then you are Ron Rivera 2.0 again. Like you might as well become him at this point.
But that just depends on how you look at this roster, though, AJ. I mean, you would have to think this roster is like really good at this point to say, yeah, we are in that conversation with some of those guys is going to be in the playoffs. I mean, I don't think it's impossible for them to reach the playoffs.
Let me ask you this, Dre. Do you think that Washington's roster right now is better than these particular teams that got to the playoffs last year in the NFC? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Rams.
I can't say that right now. I mean, because we haven't seen them play on the field.
We got a problem then.
Look, I gotta.
That is true. I thought about it too. I couldn't say without a matter of fact. Yeah, because like Tampa Bay's defense, dogs. And then Los Angeles, they just and Matt Stafford, they know what the fuck they be doing over there. And then Puka, I don't think we got no Puka. We ain't got no Puka, bro.
I mean, they telling us that Luke McCaffrey is Puka based off the RAS score.
They better.
But again, but to AJ, a lot of it falls on the quarterback. A lot of it falls on the quarterback position too. That's what I'm saying. So it's not just we got this. We got a rookie quarterback, So I know a lot of people are high on Jayden Daniels. I'm high on Jayden Daniels, but how much expectations do we want to put on him year one? I hope he exceeds.
He's going to the Super Bowl, bro.
Hey, then let's do it. I want to go for the ride.
I think the main person that we have to worry about, and we will get to while we continue to do this show, the main person you have to worry about in all of this is Cliff Kingsbury. I don't even.
That's a storyline. That's a legitimate storyline.
But like Cliff Kingsbury is the make or break for the entire Washington Commanders team, because if his offense looks stagnant like how it did as he continued to coach in Arizona, it's going to be a major issue for everybody involved.
I think he did good with Kyler Murray for what it was.
Kyler Murray was out there freelancing, bro. Like Kyler Murray was freelancing.
We can go all night on this, man.
That's why I was like, hold on, let's go ahead, let's go ahead, shelf this, bro, because that's gonna be a whole nother conversation. Yep. We can definitely talk about
Murray
Cliff.
Was playing NFL Street out there, bro.
And maybe we talk about Cliff with the next guest on the next show. But yeah, that's definitely a storyline. We can't underestimate Cliff. We can't even underestimate the first-time defensive coordinator, honestly. Like, I know he's going to be having some type of work with Dan, but at the end of the day, we do got some interesting, subplots and storylines for moving forward. But that's going to wrap it up for us on this one. We're going to keep talking about the draft, some more players, try to get some nuggets on some of these guys on the back end. And even some of the undrafted free agents that we didn't get to. We can even touch the veteran free agent market. Hopefully we did get some more news in terms of by the next time we're on the show, if Washington made any moves in terms of free agency. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Dre, AJ, good chopping up with y'all. Everybody in the chat, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so. AJ does not have a channel, but it would be a good idea. He has an Instagram though. I don't know if he talks sports on there.
Well, he has a Twitter. We all have Twitter.
He does have a Twitter.
You find nothing on there. You just
have a Twitter.
Might as well follow Twitter. Like,
yeah, you can follow.
I'm here with my boys. We doing Trap or Dive. Y'all tune in when we have our episodes Tuesday. Outside of that, you might catch a couple tweets.
Y'all might not like him on Twitter, yeah, bro. Because perception.
We didn't even talk about the Kendrick response. Which I think about the Euphoria.
He smoked
before we get out of here.
He smoked him. It's over. It's not even a fair battle, brother. It's not fair. You know what I'm saying? It's like getting Sean King. You know what I'm saying? It's like getting Sean King to debate Dr. Umar on blackness. That's what this whole rap battle is.
Hey, bro, 6 minutes of pressure from K-Dot, bro. I ain't even gonna lie to you. And I listened to that joint like 4 times just so I can hear everything. And I still didn't hear everything yet, but like, it was 6 minutes of pressure, bro. Like so many different quotable bars, bro. So many different things you can really look into, like study, just to see what the fuck he was talking about, bro. Like that joint, 6 minutes directly at Drake, bro. Like I liked it, bro. I really did. I liked it.
Hey man, I'm excited for round 1. I'm excited for next round, bro. I'm excited for next round.
Too, bro. And we already know Drake got something in the cut, so go ahead and drop that shit, bro.
I already know. He better come with some more than some jokes.
It's dropping Friday, so
yeah, ain't no more trolling, Dre. He can't do no more trolling, bro.
He's
not playing with your head,
shit,
bro.
Man. Like,
let's get it. Let's get it
already. Hey, y'all stay safe, everybody. All 32 coming out on Friday. Stay tuned for the Coleman film breakdown will be out to sometime today or tomorrow, or maybe what's today? Or maybe Thursday, sometime between Wednesday and Thursday. My bad. But yeah, y'all take it easy, be safe, all that good stuff. We up out of here.
Yes,
Peace.
sir.